Recording. So yes, as I say, my name is Tony Jones, and we're going to have a look at the Vault Basic 2015 product data management tool that you get with a number of the suites, and looking at the functionality that gives you. I'm going to be primarily looking at it from a point of view of manufacturing interaction, so I'm going to be using Inventor, but I'm also aware that some of the people we have on the webinar today are also from a construction or architectural background, and again it does tie in with those packages as well with you, some of them in slightly different ways to Inventor, but it's all there. I'm going to try and keep it succinct to the point. Hopefully the presentation won't be very long, followed by a short demonstration. After that I'll open up the line for questions, whether that be through the chat functionality or through the microphones. So let's get started. So Vault Basic, or Vault as a family, but Vault Basic particularly, the one we're looking at, is a data management software that kind of helps wrap up the digital prototyping process that we're familiar with. So the idea of taking our designs from the initial concept, working our way through whichever industry we're in, through the design process, validation or manufacture or construction side of that, as well as sales and marketing. And Vault is a way of wrapping that up and managing that data. Now, if you're working within a design environment with design software, do you find yourself asking yourself a series of questions, or do you find you have needs that are required while you're working with CAD data? Particularly if you're working with 3D data, Inventor is a good example of that, where the relationships between your designs files are a little bit more complex than your normal flat file format. So do you find that you have a need to find your design data quickly and easily? Most companies I've interacted with and dealt with have very good method of folder structure within Windows Explorer, but that again is very much manual process with a level of search functionality that's within Windows Explorer, but it's also very open, and bar permissions can be sometimes quite easy to overwrite files, lose files, delete files. So the next question is, do you find that you have a need to use your files securely, know that they're secure, that they can't be deleted, and that they're backed up? Do you ever have to reuse your design data? Do you take a design you've already worked with and have a need to capture that data and reuse it elsewhere, or take a version of it and redesign it slightly? Do you need to understand the design change impacts within your designs? If you were to make a change to a design or to a component, with all the best will in the world, unless you have particularly good knowledge of the product ranges or the design or the designs available, it's very difficult to understand the true impact of a change without involving a lot of people or a lot of background history and knowledge of that product. Another one is file relationships, particularly again with Inventor, where you have relationships between parts and assemblies and drawings. You need to maintain those. If you move a file around, relationships get broken, they need to be reassigned, reconnected. A need to maintain history of your designs, versions of changes, archiving any stages, and being able to understand what's happened along the life of that design that's got it to the point that it is at the moment. Being able to interact with those old versions, pull back old versions. On occasions, I certainly in the past with various companies I've worked for, I've had a need to roll back some designs where actually things have changed and an older version fills the requirements better. Also, working as a team, you're going to want to be able to access all this data securely and as a team. So why Autodesk Vault? Well, Autodesk Vault Basic starts you off on the journey. It's the bottom rung of the Vault family products, and I'll come on to a brief explanation of the verticals later on. But it's a data management, file management system that allows you to interact with your design data, not just CAD data, you can also interact with other file formats as well. But it gives you a way of managing that, and it, on top of that, gives you tools to make that management as easy as possible. So first of all, best-in-class CAD integration. Working with your design software, you'll find that many of the Autodesk products will have a Vault add-in built into them. So that'll enable you to work within the CAD package that you're familiar with an extra add-in, extra tab or an extra browser that will enable you to interact with the Vault and to utilize the Vault to manage your data. So as I say, built into your CAD application. It also makes the use of the PDM and adopting the use of data management quite easy, because you're interacting with your CAD system, you're doing your day-to-day design work, but it enables you to capture this functionality as you go along through the design process, rather than having to focus on learning a new system and interacting with that system. And also with that, you can start off with Vault Basic, and if you decide that actually later on you need to upgrade to the next release, or if you want to increase the functionality you have by capturing one of the vertical products, it's a very straightforward process to upgrade either vertically or to the next version. You also have the ability to search for your search your files, so you can quickly and also utilize advanced search functions that include searching within inside the file. So there's functionality in there to do general quick searches on properties within files, but also the contents of those files. And on top of that, because of the way the Vault client works, which is the Explorer side of it that comes with Vault, you can actually start interrogating the data a little bit more to understand design changes, to understand what files used, where they're used, getting preview information, and so on. And it also maintains the file relationship. So if you move a file within the Vault, it will then reassign all the relationships that are relevant for those files, saving you having to go through the pain of actually reattaching things. It also comes with built-in file viewers, so you'll be able to view your CAD files. There's a DWF viewer built into there, and you can get DWFs published out of there. You've also got the ability to view things like PDFs, images, Word documents, Excel documents, and so on within the Vault client itself. Centrally managed design data. The way the Vault works is it gives you a server-based system, which will be the Vault server as part of the install, which is based on an SQL database system, and that resides on the server, and that's basically where all the mechanics of controlling the data and sorting it and searching it, backing it up is all done. And the Vault client resides on the CAD user's machine alongside the add-in within their CAD system, and that talks to the server, interacts with the server, and when you're working with files, it will take those files, pull them down locally for you, allow you to work on them, check them out so they're locked to you so nobody else can change them while you're working on them, save the changes, check them back in, giving relevant comments as to what you've done. That will then keep a history of that, push it back up to the server, and then make your version, the latest version, available for everybody else to work with. And it's a way of just giving you the security of working on a network, on a server, where you get your backups and various other bits and pieces that will maintain the security of that data, but at the same time giving you the benefit of working locally and the speed improvements that you get with that. It also enables you, if you're working on a laptop, to be able to take files down onto the laptop, work away from the server, come back, and then reconnect to the server. So, just said all that, and I'll rattle through that slide. So, as I say, it enables this concurrent design workflow. It enables you to manage your project data and also the multiple file formats I mentioned earlier. It interacts with Microsoft Office, and you'll find that you also get an add-in for Microsoft Office that will enable you to check in Excel spreadsheets, Word documents, which we'll demonstrate later. And also, one of the things of it being logging into the server side of the Vault is that you can set up different users with different user permissions, so certain people can access certain types of data and they can interact with it in different ways. You also get version history. So within the Vault Basic, it's not revision history. It's a common mistake. The vertical products will deal with life cycling and revision, but this is a version history. And I guess really, if you're starting out, you may want to make use of this by using the version history and having milestones. So even though it's not technically a revision, you can capture milestones in the design and comment those as you go through. Every time you check in, a version is created. When you get to a key check-in, add a comment that suggests that it's a release level. It's not true revision control, but it does at least give you the ability to capture those milestones. But for every change you make, it will capture who's made the change, who checked it in, what machine it's checked out on while it's checked out, and update the data, but it will also maintain the old versions of that. So it doesn't replace the existing, it's just the latest version of a line of history. You can purge out unnecessary versions as well, because obviously if you're checking files in and out quite a lot, you could build up quite a stack of versions. But it's a way of capturing that design. So it does this automatically. Every time you check in a file, put a comment down against it, that's captured as a point. So again, it allows you this whole design tracking process within your project history. And you can also use that to revert back to an old version, whether that be to check an old version, see what the changes are, or if you actually technically want to revert back to that for the purposes of the design. And like I say, capturing the important milestones, typically if you're doing life cycle management, you would look at the verticals, but starting out with Vault Basic, you could capture that by using your comments as a way of capturing whether it's revision 1 or revision 2 and so on. You also have a very powerful tool within Vault called Copy Design, which will enable you to copy a configuration of design. So you can take a design that exists already and use the Copy Design to take a copy of that and create a new version. Now that could be that you take a new version and everything in it is completely new, or it could be that you're looking to capture a new design with the change to some of the components, and this tool will enable you to do that. So you can create new versions with these and reuse any existing files so that they're then shared across a number of designs or a couple of designs depending on how you do that. And it again maintains the relationships and creates any new relationships for the new files for you automatically in the background. All these things I'll demonstrate shortly. Or in fact now, so demonstration time. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through the tools as they are. Hopefully that's given you a bit of information on the actual Vault sort of theory. Let's actually put that into practice and see what we get. So I'm going to start off by going to Inventor, and for those of you familiar with Inventor, obviously standard interface, I'll show you it in AutoCAD as well, but you do have access to a Vault tab within Inventor, and you'll find this within AutoCAD. You'll find that with Revit there is also now a Vault tab, and I believe that is in the, if you use the verticals, but you can also use things like AutoCAD Civil 3D and so on, some of the vertical AutoCAD products that will give you access to the Vault using Vault Basic, using the standard approach with AutoCAD, or if you use the vertical products, they start tying in with some of the project functionality that's built into those verticals. So within Inventor, you'll see you've got your Vault tab, and you'll find that between this and the browser, you'll find a number of different ways of accessing and checking in and checking out data. I literally log into the Vault from here, and I can have different users, so I could log in as myself, and you can set passwords for this. I'm going to leave it password only because I don't have to then worry about remembering them for demonstration purposes. I'm currently connected to server localhost, and I can choose what server I'm connecting to. So you can have multiple servers. Typically you would have one which would be your main design Vault. And you can also get it to automatically log in, so you don't have to worry about it when you fire up the software. It automatically logs into the Vault for you. So if I log into it, that's it. It then makes available some tools for me. So I can either through the open functionality go directly into the Vault and start looking for files within there, and I can search for functions. So if I go for, let's search for a lamp, there you go. Any files that have lamp in them I can go and find. I'll come back to that in the Vault as well, or you have the access to that here, and any files that are brought down locally will be opened. So the interaction within, one of the things you'll find with the Vault as well is it asks you questions, so it's always checking to make sure that what you're doing is relevant and does it need to do anything with files. So in this case it's asking me, do I want to check out this file? At the moment I'm just viewing, so I'm just going to say no, and then that will pull down the files from the server for me, and then that will give me the latest version of this particular design. And for the moment, yeah, let's just update that. So this is the Vimec vehicle, and there you go. You can see that's opened up from the Vault. I have the latest version. I also have within here, again, many of the CAD packages will have browser interaction as well. So within Inventor, I have access to the Vault here where I can check in and check out the files as I go. So I'll close that down. So you get the add-ins built into Inventor. We also have the add-in built into AutoCAD, and again you'll find Vault tab there, and again I can log in exactly the same way, and I'm in. So now I can start working, and when I want to push back to the server and check in, the initial file will be saved locally, but as soon as I check in it will push a copy of it up to the server and make it available within the Vault. On top of that, you have the ability to interact with Office as well, as I said. So I'll come back to this shortly, but again there's a Vault tab within Office which allows me to log in, and I can start interacting directly with the Vault from my Office applications as well. So moving on, let's have a look at the Vault client. So we've got the CAD side of it with the add-ins, but you also get this Vault client as well, the Vault Explorer, which enables you to do a bit more advanced searching and interaction with your files. So I'm going to log into the Vault here. And it's much the same. It gets compared to an Outlook style interface. So you have your browser down the left hand side, which will give you access to your folders. So you've got your content center files here, design data, and you'll see various folders here that I can go into. And that was a file we opened up earlier. Library files. I can also set up search folders as well. So if there's certain projects or certain items I'm working on a lot, I can set links. I can also set up shortcuts to particular locations. So search functionality, that could be anything from a particular file type to who's got files checked out. On the left hand side we have our browser panel here, which will give me information on the files that are stored in these locations, much like you would expect in Windows Explorer. And the bottom section here is our browser panel. So let's see what we can do within here. So coming back to my PowerPoint presentation, the demonstration I'm going to go through is I'm going to have a look at this lamp fitting on the top of this vehicle, and I want to create a single light version of it. I want to adapt the change slightly, and I want to keep track of that through the design process. So let's go back to Vault and start interrogating what I need. So first of all, I know that the component I'm looking for has lamp in it. I can't remember what the part number is. That's fine, because the search functionality within Vault will allow me to do a quick search, and it'll pull up search information based on files that contain that. So you can see that I've got a number of files. Some of them, you'll notice things like the part number, title, don't actually have lamp in them. So you can actually set it to search within the files and look at the text content of it. In this case, I'm actually interested in this file here. Now, as we look at the tab at the bottom, the panel at the bottom, you'll see that tabs become available that give me the ability to start looking at information on here. And you'll see that I've got version history on this. So the initial part was added to the Vault, and then there was a change to the radius to increase it by 3 times. So I can start looking at the designs, who's done them, when they were done, and what the change was. And that's part and parcel of the check-in, check-out process. Within here, I also have the ability to look at the file and say, okay, what does this file use? So if this file had a link in of another component, it would be listed underneath. But in this case, because it's a single file, I'm able to go in and look at where it's used. Now, I want to make a change to this design. I actually physically want to change this component, but I need to understand how is this going to impact other designs. And it's used in a couple of different locations. And if I expand that out, it shows me where this file is used. So it's currently used as in a drawing of the component itself, but it's also used in these assemblies. So if I make a change to this, will that assembly and that assembly work? Will it affect them appropriately? And in this case, I don't actually want to do that. I want to create a third version because I want to leave those ones as they are. I don't want those 2 versions to be updated with my changes. So it starts giving me the ability to understand my design changes before I've even committed to modeling anything up. And then the last thing I want to highlight is if I go to my preview panel as well, I will get a preview including the versions of this design. So I'm just going to do a quick update on here, make sure I get my a refresh of my file, and there we go. So for 3D files, I will get a 3D model. Just wait for that to finish a moment. But you'll see there, just wait for it to catch up. There we go, that's more like it. So there we go. So I have the ability to look at the 3D model without opening the CAD up. And that will enable me to do things like measure, and understand what's going on within here, depending on whether it's using Design Review or Viewer. But that isn't just limited to the 3D. If I go back to my Where Used tab, I can pick up this drawing and go to its folder, which is over here. And again, I can preview that file as well. So that will give me the preview of the drawing itself. There you go. So I can start looking at the data before I make any changes. And if I go back to my search, on top of that, I can also interact with Office documents. So again, I've got the history of check-in, check-out, so probably edits, what does it use, is it used anywhere else, and then my preview. If I click on my preview, I can also preview my Office documents, images and PDFs and so on. So it's quite a helpful way of interacting with files. It enables you to find files and look at them, understand your design before you go into anything. So I'm going to go back into my part file. Bear with me a moment. Thank you. All right, back into there. So this file here, I want to start looking at making changes to this. So again, where used, I want to take a version of the type 1, which is a 3 lamp construction, and I actually want to take a copy of that. So I can go straight to copy design, and this will give me the ability to go in and start looking at my design. So in here I have the ability to choose what files to reuse and what files to create a new. So in this case I actually want to create a new version of the plate that's holding the lamps, and with that it automatically picks up the drawing and understands that that's also associated with it. Obviously the top level assembly is being recreated from fresh, but actually the rest of these components are fine. I want to use them as they are. I want to put it into a new folder, and I'm going to call this version 2. Now for the moment I haven't decided on the part numbering scheme yet, so what I'm going to do is just put a suffix on the end of version 2 and apply that to all the new files, and you see now that that becomes available there. And that's it, as simple as that. It's a very quick, very easy, powerful tool. And if I hit OK, this will now go away, create the new files and reassociate any relationships that are required for the new files. Just processing that. In a moment or two we should have the new versions. And there we go. So it's refreshed it, and you can see now I have my new file, which is used under my new assembly and my new drawing. So very quickly, very easily, I can start generating new versions of my design. So now let's go on and actually make a change to this. So let's open that up. Do I want to check it out? Yes, please. That'll take me into Inventor, and I can start making changes. Now what you'll find is while you're working with Inventor or with any of the CAD packages, as I said earlier, it will start asking you questions about how it makes changes to the files. So do you need to check a file out? Do you need to check it in? Do you need to get the latest of that file? And if I look at the model, I get, if I look at the Vault browser, I use this as a way of interacting. I get symbols indicating the state of the file. So at the moment this file is checked out to me, but no changes have been made. So it's actually in sync with the server. As soon as I save it, it'll go out of sync, and when I check it back in, it'll go back into sync again. So what I'm going to do within here is I'm actually going to go in and start making some changes. So I'll get rid of that lamp, get rid of that lamp, and I'm now going to go in and edit this part. So I want to start making some changes to this. So let's see, let's lose that pattern for a moment. I'll just keep it simple. And instantly I make a change. It says, do you want to check it out? Yes, I do. So it'll then check it out in the Vault, and nobody else can access this while I'm making changes to this. Let's see what else. I want to round off this corner as well a little bit. So let's see, looking at the flanges, let's make that, I don't know, say 15. Nice rounded corners, except that there's an error in one of the design. That's fine. Go with that. Flip that chamfer around. There we go. So those changes are made very quickly, very easily. I think also what I might do is go in and change these as well. Increase their radiuses, take some of those sharp corners off. And there we go. Very quickly, very easily made a change. And that's my new version. That's all I wanted to achieve, is to just create a single light version. I'm using a new powerful light source. And literally all I want to do now is put this back in. So the first thing I need to do is save that file, update those. You see the symbol goes green. That indicates that the one local is newer than the one in the server. And when I check the file in, I can add a comment in here saying reduce version to single light source, round off sharp corners. Now it's quite important to make sure that you put comments in here, because this is your history. Now, I can go in here, I can get to delete local files, I can get it to check it in and then check it back out again. So it might be an iteration that I just want to check in as a milestone. As soon as I hit OK, it will push those files back to the server, and when we go back into our Vault client, we will see that these files have updated. So if I just refresh my browser a second, see there you go, version 2. If I go back into my history, and there we are. So copy of the original one, and then there's my comments from making the changes. So that will then update, and I can then start utilizing that elsewhere within the design process. Also with that, we should find that its drawing as well will update as well. If we open that up, updates will push through, check it out, check it back in again. So that allows me to interact with my CAD data quite nicely. I can check in, I can check out. I can also go back at any point and say, well, actually, this one, I actually want to get that version, which will then enforce an old version of this. If I open it up, he says, smoothly done. That's because I've currently got it open at the moment. So pull down that version to my my local folder, go back into my Inventor, and we should find that is now updated. Version 2 parts. There you go. So there's the old version. So I can readily access those old versions as well as being able to interact with it. And if I go back into the Vault client, it's very easy to just pull back the latest version of it, and that will be the one that's available within the Vault. And there you go. So the symbols indicate what state it's in, which one's newer than the other. I also have other functionality within here, so I can start renaming and changing the properties of this. So for instance, I've now decided that I know what the part number for this is going to be. So what I'm going to do is pick the item and edit its properties, and I can go in and start making changes to this. So I now know that it's going to be 003, and I can change the author of it. So in this case, let's change that to me. Lamp mount single. Oops. And OK. And that will refresh those files. Successful update, close. And if I do a quick refresh and a quick synchronize, close. There you go. Sorry, file name hasn't changed. I haven't changed my file name, but I can rename that. But I can also set my part numbers at this point. So one of the other things is that the relationships I mentioned earlier are maintained. So I've started off with this version 2, which is effectively a development folder, and I actually want to start moving these files around. So let's start by moving the part files and actually drag that into the appropriate part folder within the Vault. So I have a VK630 parts folder here, and I just literally drag and drop that file, and it moves that file into that location. And we should see, there we go, there's the file itself. And what's nice about this is it still understands what it's related to, and those files also know what those relationships are. So I don't have to go in now to the assembly and reassociate that location or tell it where to find that file. It understands fully where that file's gone. So if I go back into my VK folder, again I can drop my drawing off into the parts folder. I can go into my subassembly and I can pull that and drop that into my subassembly folder. And all of those relationships are mapped and rearranged. So renaming, editing properties, and moving files. So what about other file formats? What things can I do to interact with my Word documents? my PowerPoint. So I might get data sheets in from suppliers. I might get quotes in that I want to keep within here. Now you could replicate a structure on the server, but you can also capture and join these in with here. So I've got a folder here so far where I've got a data sheet. There's a PDF file there. If we go to the preview, I should get a preview of that. So in this case, it's for a particular lamp. And again, histories of any changes or things. So if you replace it with a newer version, you can capture that. I also have the one for the invoice, which we saw earlier, which will allow me to see the preview. But I might want to add files in as well. So first of all, let's start with the Word document. I have a quote from a supplier. So I'm just going to go in and open that up, and we'll find within my Vault working folder, which is the local location that Vault works with, or we set it up to work with, we should have under the invoices folder a quote. So if I open that up, we'll see that we've got this document here, 100 of these lamps, part number, cost it's going to be. I just want to add this into my project so I can keep track of it. So what I would do is go to my Vault tab. I'm currently logged in, as you saw earlier, and I literally just check it in, add quote to project. There you go, that makes that file read only. If I go back into my Vault client, we will now see under here, if I do a quick refresh of the folder, there's the file ready to access. So working with the Office packages, very straightforward, very easy. Well, what about if I want to bring in a non-CAD file or a non-Office file? PDF's a good example of that. Undoubtedly, we all interact with PDF files on a regular basis. So what I'm going to do is actually just add it in from the client. Right click, add files, and within here I have this particular data sheet here I want to bring in. Open it up, add a comment, add to Vault, and OK. And there you go. It's as easy as that. So you can manage and interact with other data other than your CAD data. I think that probably wraps up most of the functionality. So where are we now? It's just over half an hour. Hopefully that's given you an insight into what Vault can do and how easy it is to interact with. As I said, it's going to be focused on the Inventor side of things, but I could quickly create a drawing in AutoCAD and check that in and see exactly the same functionality really. But I think what I'll do now is I'll stop the recording and then I'll open it up to questions if anybody has